Hey, what's up YouTube? Alex here, and in this video, really excited about it. I'm kind of going to break down my betting process, right? Like, how do I find my bets? So this year, I'm up over $235,000 at the time of recording this video. Right before Thanksgiving, I'm recording it. And you can see I've placed over 7,500 bets this year. So I use a ton of different sports books. I'm a big believer in this, and I'm not even a big believer. This is a fact. If you're a sports bettor, you want to use as many books as possible. All of these sports books, they set their own lines, right? The sports betting market is so fragmented, so inefficient. You have hundreds of books that have launched in the US. They may not all be legal in your state, but regardless, you probably have 10, 20 sports books and fantasy books like PrizePicks available in your state. All these books are a little different. So long story short, I'm kind of going to break down the different betting strategies I use and how I use each tool on OddsJam to make money, right? There's some higher risk betting strategies, some lower risk betting strategies. There's different types of sports books. There's traditional sports books like FanDuel and DraftKings. There's also fantasy sites like PrizePicks, Dabble, Underdog Fantasy, which have fixed payouts, so the betting strategy changes a bit when you're using these fixed payout fantasy books like PrizePicks. But regardless, in this video, it's going to be a little bit longer of a video, so I apologize in advance. I'm basically going to show you how I use each tool on OddsJam to get these results, because all of my bets, again, are found with data. I don't just wake up and bet random things with my gut, right? I follow very data-driven strategies, proven betting strategies that sharps, that pro sports bettors use to make money, like arbitrage, like middle betting, like positive EV. So the purpose of this video is really just to run through how I use OddsJam to get these results. So the first thing I wanted to mention, aside from using multiple sports books, is there's no perfect number of bets to place per day, right? You want to place as many bets as possible. If your plays have an edge, right, you want to get as many bets in as possible. Like, I see a lot of people who ask me, how many bets should I place per day from OddsJam? 5, 10, 15? Like, what's the right number? And obviously, it kind of depends what time of the year are we in. Right now, right before Thanksgiving, you have NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA. There's so many sports going on, so there's a lot of profitable betting opportunities. It may be different in June when there's only baseball going on, and sometimes the board's a little bit more dry. There's just not as many bets with an edge based on the time of year, right? Sports betting, there's obviously, good times to be really profitable sports betting times, like right now when every major sport basically is going on. And then there's slower times like June and July. But you want to place as many bets as possible. And I know that sounds a little weird, but it's completely true, right? If I'm the best poker player in the world, I don't just show up at the table, play one hand, and then leave. Right? If I have an edge, if I'm the best poker player, I want to play as many hands as possible. I know sometimes I'll get dealt crappy cards like 2-7 and I'll lose money. But if I'm the best poker player, the smartest one, I understand the strategy best, I know long term I'm going to make money, right? I know I have the edge and I am going to win long term. So it's kind of the same thing in sports betting. You want to place as many bets that are actually profitable, that have an edge, as possible. So, a kind of related example is I started my career as a quantitative trader. So basically, when I was a trader, a lot of the trades were automated, just coming in and going. But as a quant trader, like, your algorithms, you're trading hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands, depends on the day, hundreds of thousands of trades every single day, right? So it really is a volume game. Nobody's going to win every bet. It's about placing a bunch of bets with an edge and then letting the math work itself out. If you have an advantage, if you have an edge, you're going to make money long term. So that's another plug for using a bet tracker. So this bet tracker I use right here, where you can see my yearly profit is $236,000, is called Pickett. So Pickett's a verified bet tracker. What it does is you sync your sports books. It reads in your bets from every sports book, from all the sports books, and shows you your profit and loss. So, and they give you a bunch of analytics like profit by sport, profit by league, profit by team even. Like there's a bunch of different analytics. But obviously as a sports bettor, if you think you have an edge, it's really important to track your bets. Nobody's going to win every single day. Most people aren't going to win every single day. Maybe if you're arbitrage betting, which we'll get to, but most people, you're gonna have winning days, you're gonna have losing days, and if you're using a bunch of sports books, it's really important to track your results. So Pickit is a great bet tracker, highly recommend using it, because like when I started sports betting, I was very uncomfortable with the idea of losing money, so I bet very small amounts. But I tracked my results over the course of months and months. I saw I had a positive ROI, so that's when I started to increase my unit size. Seeing, hey, over the past 4 or 5 months, I had a positive ROI, that gave me the confidence that I needed to increase my unit size as a sports bettor. But without further ado, let's get into the first OddsJam betting tool that I use all the time. I love it. It's called the OddsJam Arbitrage Tool. So let's get into it. So the first betting strategy that I love, I think every single sports bettor should be doing it. It's actually how I started gambling, how I made my first $40,000 profit sports betting. It's called arbitrage. So basically, when I started to take my sports betting more seriously, I was living in Pennsylvania. I had a full-time job as a trader, and sports betting legalized in the US in 2018. So a bunch of sports books started to launch in Pennsylvania. And basically, I spent a ton of time researching what are lower risk betting strategies, right? What are proven ways, right? I didn't want any BS. Oh, buy this guy's picks, buy this guy's picks. I don't fall for that. I wanted proven data-driven strategies that actually make money, and I wanted to understand them. So the first strategy that I fell in love with, and it was basically the only way that I was gambling for the first few months when I started taking my sports betting seriously, it's called arbitrage. So essentially arbitrage is when two sports books have such different odds that you can hedge for a profit, right? You're basically day trading the sports books, discrepancies in the sports betting market. When two books have such different odds, you can bet equal and opposite outcomes, maybe the over on DraftKings, the under on BetMGM, and guarantee a risk-free profit. So the reason that arbitrage betting is possible is every sports book sets their own odds, right? All these sports books want to be unique. There's hundreds of books that have launched in the United States since sports betting legalized in 2018. FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, Flip. I mean, there's literally hundreds of books. Bet365, PointsBet, Resorts World Bet, Ballybet, Unibet. You know, there's so many books that have launched. So basically, you know, all these books are trying to set their own odds. The market is super fragmented, super inefficient for that reason. And when two books have such different odds, you can hedge and guarantee a risk-free profit. That's arbitrage betting, and you'll see tons of people talking about arbitrage betting on social media. Obviously, what appealed to me about arbitrage betting at first is I was just leaving college, starting to take my sports betting more seriously, is it's risk-free profits. Right? You can't lose money assuming you're doing it right. Every single day, you're gonna make money, assuming, again, big assumption, assuming you're doing it correctly. All you're doing is you're hedging two bets. You're pinning sports books against each other and hedging for a risk-free profit. So you'll see tons of people on social media giving out arbitrage bets, breaking them down, but I figured I'd take you through really briefly how I find my arbitrage bets, why this tool is so amazing, and essentially how to arbitrage bet. Like, how do you do this? So here you can see the OddsJam arbitrage tool, and it's super easy to use. I mean, there are, you know, so many sports books available in each state. So here you can see I just have New York sportsbook selected. But long story short, as an arbitrage bettor, right, you're always placing two bets, you're hedging to guarantee a risk-free profit. So you're betting the over on one book, the under on another book. So you're always placing two bets. You're hedging for a guaranteed profit because two sports books have vastly different odds from one another. So I always recommend use as many books as possible. Like when I started arbitrage betting in Pennsylvania, there were dozens of books available in Pennsylvania. So I signed up for, DraftKings, BetMGM, Caesars, BetPark, Sugar House, BetRivers. The more books you have, the more arbitrage plays, right? You never know which book is going to have the best arbitrage plays on a given day. So I always recommend use as many books as possible. But anyways, you can see there's some arbitrage bets. Obviously, depending on the time of day, there will be more or less. In my opinion, the best sport for arbitrage betting is the NBA, and the best time to find arbitrage bets is right before the games start. There's a lot of lineup news, right? Whenever there's lineup news, who's playing, who's not playing, who's on a minute restriction, you'll get a lot of line movement. And because all these sports books set their own odds, they all have to adjust lines. So sometimes you can get these hedging opportunities, these arbitrage plays, where you can guarantee a risk-free profit. But anyways, long story short, let's go through this arbitrage bet between Betfair and Circa. You may not use either of these sports books, but regardless, the point is to kind of explain how we can bet his over and his under to guarantee a profit. So you can see Betfair has Saquon to score at minus 145. Circa, which is a sports book in Colorado, Vegas, I don't know, a couple other states, they're super different. They have him to score at minus 180. So these two books are super different, right? It's crazy. I mean, how fragmented, inefficient the sports betting market is. This is like if you could buy a stock at 145 on Fidelity, and on E-Trade, it's $180. It's a huge price discrepancy. They're 35 cents different. So basically, because these two books are so out of sync, we can hedge and guarantee a profit. Bet the over on the Betfair exchange, the under on Circa, and we're going to make a risk-free profit. So all you have to do is pull up this hedge calculator. It's also called an arbitrage calculator, and put in your stake on one book. So for example, let's say on Circa, I have a few $1,000s in my account, and I'm like, okay, I want to bet $500 on his under. Obviously, if you bet it for 50, in this case, if you bet it for 50, you'll make $2 risk-free profit. I mean, it's free money for clicking a few buttons sitting at home. Nothing better than that. But let's say I put in 500. What this calculator is going to tell me is, hey, you want to hedge and you want to bet on his over $754.59, and you'll make a risk-free profit of $20.41. So bet the under on Circa for 500, bet the over on Betfair for 754.59. What I usually recommend doing is round your bet size, right? You don't have to follow the calculator exactly. I mean, you don't want to sketch out these sports books. You're just hedging for a risk-free profit, but just round this to like $755. And you're going to make 2041 roughly risk-free. There will be slight differences because you rounded the calculator, but we can kind of go through the math, right? And I could also put in a stake here, and then it's going to tell me the stake on this other sports book. This is a hedge calculator, an arbitrage calculator. But let's just say we bet this, right? So there's only two options. With arbitrage betting, you're always going to win one bet, you're going to lose one bet. If Saquon scores, I lose my bet on Circa on his under, I win my bet on Betfair. So we're always going to win one bet, lose one bet, but because we're hedged and these two books were so out of sync and we were hedged in the proper proportions, we're going to guarantee a risk-free profit. That's arbitrage betting. So let's say Saquon scores, right? If he scores, I'm losing the $500 I bet on his under at plus 155. So I'm down $500 on Circa, but on Betfair, I go up. I don't know if you can see the formula, but it says 755 times 100 over 145, right? I'm betting $755 at minus 145 odds. Minus 145 just means betting 145 to win 100 in profit. So if I bet 755, you can go through the math. You know, you can see the formula in here. I'm going to make 520.69. So I lose on Circa, I win on Betfair. My net profit is 20.69. Again, slight differences from the 20.41 because I rounded the calculator and bet a little bit more on the Betfair exchange and Saquon scored. So if Saquon scores, I go up 20.69. Now, let's say Saquon doesn't score. In this case, I rounded this to 755. So on Betfair, I lose $755. On Circa, I go up 500 times 1.55. I'm betting $500 at plus 155 odds. Plus 155 means betting 100 to win 155 in profit. So on Circa, I'm going to profit $775. So I make $20 risk-free, right? So basically, you never know when the best arbitrage bets are going to occur. You can see OddsJam has a tab for live betting, sometimes live in-game betting. I mean, these sportsbooks can barely manage their odds pre-match, so sometimes there's really good live betting opportunities. But again, what I typically do is I just recommend place as many arbitrage bets as you can. When I started arbitrage betting, I tried to make $100 risk-free before I went to bed. So you can see here, you just kind of click the refresh button and it will show you new plays. Here's one between Rebet and FanDuel. Long story short, the more books you're using, the better. At the time of recording this video, basically every game had started, so there's just not a ton of arbitrage bets. But again, pull up the calculator. Let's say on Rebet, which is a sports book that's available basically everywhere. Again, as an arbitrage bettor, ideally use as many books as possible. More books, more arbitrage plays. So let's say on Rebet, I'm like, okay, I want to bet 250. Calculator tells me hedge on FanDuel 933.07, maybe round that to 935, and I'll make $24 risk-free. So you just head over to the sports books, try to place your bets as quickly as possible before the line moves. These are market inefficiencies. The best arbitrage bets aren't going to last forever. So what I recommend doing is, again, you'll get more comfortable navigating these sports books, but try to head over to FanDuel, head over to Rebet, get your bets ready, then lock them in at the same time. You're fully hedged. You'll make a risk-free profit of $24.43. So just follow the calculator, round your bet size, and try to move as quickly as possible. OddsJam has one-click bet, which I think you can see right here. So go to this bet on DraftKings, which will take you directly to the sportsbook. So it's a lot quicker to lock in your arbitrage bets. But that's basically arbitrage betting. I mean, it's super simple. I recommend check this page, have it up in the background. That's what I do. And I just refresh it, let's say every 20, 30 minutes as the market moves around. Players get injured, weather changes, lineups are released for the upcoming day. There's always new arbitrage bets occurring. So I try, especially when I was starting with just arbitrage betting, I try to make $100 risk-free before I go to bed. Like, this game is tonight. This is the power of sports betting. You may be like, this is kind of lame. I have to bet a total of $1,100 and I'm only making $24 risk-free, but you're not looking at it the right way, right? Essentially, the way you want to think about this is if you bet this, you're $24 richer by the end of the night, right? Like, this game is tonight. Raptors versus Cavs. This game actually starts in 7 minutes. So by the time the game ends in 3 hours, I'm $24.43 richer. I'll win one of these bets, I'll lose one of these bets, but regardless of what happens, I'm going to make $24.43. I'm $24.43 richer. So lock in this arbitrage bet. Then maybe if you use any of these other sports books, lock in another one. It's a volume game. Let's say every arbitrage bet makes you $10 in profit. Try to lock in 10 a night. You're making $100 risk-free. That's money that's building your sports betting bankroll for other sharp, profitable strategies. So the next strategy that I love, and kind of once I started arbitrage betting, once I got comfortable with that, I started to look into middle betting. I did a ton of research on middle betting, and this is another sharp betting strategy that, pros use. It's a data-driven, proven strategy, and it's all possible because all sports books set their own lines and the market is super fragmented. So I think the easiest way to explain middle betting is just by going through an example. So you can see right here on DJ, FSU's quarterback, there was a 17-yard discrepancy in where his line was being set. FanDuel had his line at 192.5. Fliff, which is, a sports book that's legal in basically every state, they had his line at 209.5. So these two books were super out of sync. Again, it's crazy. It's like a stock being 192.50 on Fidelity and then 209.50 or whatever on E-Trade. It's crazy. Financial markets like the stock market are super liquid and efficient, so you can't do stuff like this. But in sports betting, the market's super fragmented. Hundreds of books have launched in the US, so there's tons of middle betting opportunities available, and you'll see a lot of people talking about middle betting on social media. But basically, what you want to do is buy low, sell high. So I bet the over 192.5 on FanDuel, the under 209.5 on Fliff. Again, one of these bets is always going to win. I'm either going to win my over or I'm going to win my under. However, there's a 17-yard gap. If DJ has 193, to 209 passing yards, I'm going to win both bets. I'm going to win my over 192.5 on FanDuel as well as my under 209.5 on Fliff. And again, a lot of people think about sports betting. Are you taking this guy's over or are you taking his under? But how sharp bettors think, how data-driven sports bettors think, is it matters where's the line set. So essentially what you do is you pay the juice, and if DJU has 193 to 209 passing yards, if he falls between there, you're going to win both bets, which actually happened. So I won both bets. DJU had between 193 and 209 passing yards in actually 2 of his first 4 games of the season. So these middles hit more often than you think, right? Like DJU, he's not going to have 5 passing yards. He's not going to have 1,000 passing yards. So the distribution is kind of like a normal distribution around where the player's line is set. Those yards are very impactful. So I found this play on the OddsJam middle betting tool, which I'll show you in a second, but NBA, college basketball, NFL, college football, these are great sports for middle betting. And you know, you can find a lot of opportunity. They're also a fun sweat, right? I call middle bets the low risk lottery tickets of sports betting, right? Like you don't have a lot of risk. You're always going to win your over or you're under. However, it's a fun sweat because you're hoping for DJU to have a very narrow, you're hoping for a very narrow outcome to happen, in which case you'll win both bets. So OddsJam has a tool for middle betting, just like the Arbitrage Tool. It's fully customizable. You can select all the sports books you use, date range, stuff like that. You can also add in minimum distance. So for example, I just showed you a middle bet where FanDuel had a guy's line at 192.5, Fliff was at 209.5. So that's a 17-yard gap. So if I put in 15 here, I'd only see plays that were different by 15 or more points. Just like the middle bet I saw. If I had minimum distance of 20, I wouldn't have seen the middle bet that I locked in. But regardless, you don't need to add a minimum distance, but I figured that was worth noting. Again, the more books you use, the better. You never know which sports books are going to be super out of sync on a given day and have the best middle bets. There's oftentimes really good live middles, so you can select pre-match or live. A lot of times during a game, there will be some huge discrepancies. These books, there's hundreds of books in the US. They can barely set their lines pre-match, so live betting can be extremely lucrative. I recommend checking if you're trying to live bet, arbitrage, or middle betting. Check games at halftime, timeout breaks, because if you're trying to arbitrage bet during the middle of a possession, like these lines are flying around. But anyways, let's kind of go through this. So middle bets can be positive, right? A positive ROI, regardless of what happens, a positive percent or a negative percent. So for example, you can see right here, Saquon Barkley receiving yards, this is negative 0.46%. So basically what this means is if I place this middle bet, so this is just a hedge calculator, an arbitrage calculator. It's the same calculator as the arbitrage tool. But essentially what this is telling me is, hey, if I want to bet this middle and I want to put $500 on FanDuel, it tells me to hedge for $458.92 on Caesars. Again, I recommend rounding your bet size. But basically what this tells me is, hey, you're going to lose $4.37 if your middle doesn't hit. So you're paying the juice. So basically, if Saquon has exactly 14 receiving yards, you're going to win both of these bets and make like $1,000 profit if Saquon has exactly 14 receiving yards. If he doesn't have exactly 14, if he goes, 13 or less or 15 or more, he doesn't have exactly 15 and you follow the calculator, you're going to lose, a few bucks. You're going to lose $437 on your total stake of, $958. So let's go through this middle bet though. Middle bets with a positive percentage, like this one, you can't lose money. I think these are Canadian sports books, so personally I don't use them, but regardless, the point of this video is for it to be educational, to kind of go through examples. So let's go through it, right? Plus 120, minus 117. Let me kind of show you how it's impossible to lose money. And if Jalen Hurts, right, falls between this gap, granted, it's going to be very rare, but if he has exactly 40 rushing yards, you're going to win both bets. So let's just say, for the sake of example, again, I kind of have my little spreadsheet pulled up. I like to make these spreadsheets. I mean, when I was starting to bet on sports, I found stuff like this, obviously, super helpful. But let's go back here and let's say, okay, on this bet right book, I want to bet 500 bucks. So this calculator tells me, bet 593.09 on pro line on his under at minus 117. And if your middle does not hit, right? So if Hurts does not have exactly 40 rushing yards, you're going to make a profit of 691. So again, as I said previously, I recommend rounding the calculator. So let's say we round pro line to 595. So we're betting 595 on Hurts under 40.5 rushing yards at minus 117. We're betting his over at plus 120 for 500 bucks, right? So let's kind of go through the math. And let's start with the best possible outcome, right? If Hurts has exactly 40 rushing yards, I know it's rare, but if Hurts has exactly 40 rushing yards, we win both of our bets, right? So on bet right, we're going to win $600. 500 is what we're betting. On Hurts over 39.5 rushing yards, we're betting $500 at plus 120 odds. So if this wins, we're going to win 500 times 1.2. We're going to win $600 profit on bet right. So long story short, if Hurts has exactly 40 rushing yards, we're going to win our over 39.5, 600 profit. On pro line, we bet 595 at minus 117 odds. So it's just 595 times 100 over 117. We're going to win 508 profit. So if Hurts has exactly 40 rushing yards, that's our main sweat. That's what we want to happen. We make $1,100. Now, on the other hand, if Hurts has 39 or less, so if Hurts has 39 or less, we're going to lose our bet on him over 39.5, right? If he has 10 rushing yards, 20, 30, 39, whatever, we're going to lose our bet on the over. We bet is over for $500 at plus 120. So we lose this bet, but we win on pro line 508.55. Our net profit's 855. If he has 40 or more, we win 600 on bet right. We bet 500 at plus 120. So this should actually be 41 or more, because if he has 40 exactly, we win both bets. So if he has 41 or more, we lose our under 40 half. If he has 41, 71, 101, whatever, we lose our 595 on pro line. We win 600, right, on bet right, and we make a profit of $5. Regardless of what happens, I'm making money. Obviously, I want him to have exactly 40 rushing yards, and it's not much profit otherwise, but that is a positive middle. Regardless of what happens, we're making money. If the very rare thing happens, the middle hits, then we win both bets. So this is kind of, again, the power of middle betting. It's a data-driven, sharp, proven strategy. Sometimes there's better middle bets than others. You just refresh the tool to see. So like here's one on Fox, right? Over 27.5, under 28.5. So in this case, you'd pull up the calculator. Let's say you want to bet $500 on FanDuel. This tells you to bet 577.67 on PointsBet. Maybe you want to bet 250, 288. I don't know, right? You can kind of put in the stake that fits your bankroll. And if De'Aaron Fox has exactly 28 points, which again, his line is centered around, he's not going to have 100 points. He's not going to have 2 points. So 27.5 versus 28.5 versus 29.5, those are pretty big moves. So you can make money no matter what if you follow the hedge calculator. And then again, if Fox has exactly 28 points, you'll win your over on FanDuel. You'll win your under on PointsBet because these two books are super out of sync. And, you'll win both bets. So you'll make like $500 profit, which is awesome. So that is, middle betting and how I use the OddsJam middle betting tool. So next we can go through a few other tools on OddsJam. So this is called the Sportsbook Screen. And essentially what it does is it just gives you a grid view of, essentially whatever market you want to look at. So currently I'm in the NBA. You can see all the sports books. Kind of lets you hunt around, whatever market you want to look at. You want to look at player points, player first half points. It just gives you a full grid and view of the market. And then you can see line movements are kind of highlighted in either green or red, depending on if the sportsbook improved the odds or made it worse. So, this is fully customizable. You can add sportsbooks, you can get rid of them. There's 200 plus sportsbooks on this OddsJam screen, tons of markets. I mean, these sportsbooks have so many markets. There's so many different things you can bet. Most bets suck, but obviously you can hunt through the market, find some bets with an edge. Then there is the OddsJam, I call them game pages. So essentially, it just shows you, where you're getting the best possible odds. So for example, let's say the Miami, Ohio game, you can see the best price is on Caesars at plus 122. The best odds on Bowling Green is minus 133 on the Betfair exchange. And again, you can look at any market that you want to. This is a college football game. It's not a super popular one. You can see all the spreads, the alternate spreads, and which books are offering the best possible line. OddsJam also has a bet tracker. So you can use the bet tracker. I mean, to be honest, I don't use it that much. But to add a bet to your bet tracker, you can just click on an odd. So if I want to bet this on DraftKings, let's say for $500, I can save this to my bet tracker, which is just going to show me my profit and loss, kind of a bunch of things like that. The bet tracker also gives you analytics on your P&L, what bets you have open, all sorts of stuff like that. You can also add bets to the OddsJam bet tracker directly from any betting tool. So for example, this is the OddsJam Arbitrage Tool, which we went through, which you can make risk-free money from. So let's say you lock in this arbitrage bet. The calculator tells you, hey, maybe bet $500 on Bet Online, $347 on DraftKings. You're going to make a risk-free profit of $20.59. You can add this arbitrage play to your bet tracker. Let's say you round on DraftKings to $345. From 347.06, we went through the importance of rounding. You can kind of adjust that here, add it to your bet tracker, and it will show you your profit and loss. Again, obviously knowing your profit and loss, how much money you're making, losing, all your bets open, that's really important. So the OddsJam bet tracker, kind of makes that easy to do. So you can see all the sports books, how much money you have in them, your profit and loss by day, what days you have bets open, all sorts of analytics that would get filled out. But again, this just isn't something I use that frequently because I use some other bet trackers. But regardless, it's pretty nice and a lot of people like to use it. So the next tool we have is the OddsJam Positive Expected Value plus EV tool. Positive expected value, it may seem like a complicated word. It's not. It just means positive ROI. And we'll kind of go through the math behind it here in a second. But basically, it's fully customizable. You put in all the sports books you use. There are millions of odds updating every single second on OddsJam. I mean, every sports book like FanDuel, they have tens and tens of thousands of lines up on every single sports book. So all the plus EV tool does, the positive expected value tool, is it scans the millions of odds across sports books. And then for whatever books you use, it points out the biggest discrepancies. Again, you can add a bet right to your bet tracker here. So let's say I want to bet Saquon's under at minus 103 on Caesars. You can kind of adjust your stake, whatever. But, what I want to do is kind of explain why do I think this bet on Caesars is profitable. So you'll notice minus 103 seems pretty good. All these other sports books, Pinnacle, has this line at minus 140. Pinnacle is known to be a pretty sharp book. FanDuel has this at minus 152, DraftKings minus 130, and we can get minus 103 on Caesars. So the way, what my previous boss told me actually, when I was working as a trader, because he liked to bet on sports a lot too, is you want to treat sports betting like trading a stock, right? So essentially the average line on Saquon's under is minus 139 odds across hundreds of sports books. This is just sports books in New York, so I have my state selected. Again, every state has different books, so you can see OddsJam would automatically show you New York books, but obviously there's a bunch of other books. So essentially okay, I'm able to buy Saquon's under at minus 103 at $103 when his under is trading in the market at minus 139. So it's like buying a stock at $103 when it's trading in the market at $139. You're getting value relative to the market. And you have to remember, sportsbooks are data points, right? So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is everything is factored into these books and their odds, right? So for example, DraftKings is a multi-billion-dollar company. I think it's like a $20 billion company. They're experts in setting lines. They have teams of data scientists, extremely good models, and also they have access to flow. So what I mean by that is sportsbooks aren't stupid, right? They're constantly adjusting their odds. Like you can see right here, a line movement chart from FanDuel. They've just been moving Saquon's line towards the under This is just a line movement chart. You just click on an odd and it will pull up the line movement chart. So everything is baked into sportsbook odds, lineups, injuries, weather, all that sort of stuff. Sportsbooks are pricing into their odds. They're also pricing in sharp action, right? Like sportsbooks aren't stupid. Pinnacle, they're constantly adjusting their odds. If sharp bettors start betting, Saquon's under, they'll move lines towards the under. Then if people start betting his over, they'll move odds back towards the over. It's kind of like the price of a stock, right? If the company has a really good earnings report, the stock will go up, right? There's more demand than supply. The market is reflecting, hey, this company had a really good earnings report. They made a lot more money than expected. So the stock price goes up, representing a higher company valuation. So kind of everything is priced into the market. People love to look at historical data. Oh, what did Saquon do last game? But that's already priced into the odds these books are putting out. So again, you may say, well, who cares, right? Like, who cares if all these other sports books have Saquon's under around minus 130? Why does that mean this bet on Caesars is profitable? So there's a few ways you can kind of think about this. The first thing is, if I go to an arbitrage calculator, is you'll see that, Caesars is arbitrage with this sportsbook no vig. You can get the under at minus 103, betting 103 to win 100. You can get Saquon's over at plus 118. So this play was also on the OddsJam arbitrage tool. So essentially, let's say I use both FanDuel and Caesars. I can pull up an arbitrage calculator. FanDuel has his over at plus 116. Caesars has his under at minus 103. And let's say I want to bet $500 on FanDuel on the over. If the plus number is greater than the minus number, that means there's arbitrage on equal and opposite outcomes. So if I wanted to, I could arbitrage bet this. We already went through arbitrage betting and make a risk-free profit of $32.02, right? So I could just arbitrage bet this, Caesars and FanDuel, and make a risk-free profit. So whenever arbitrage exists, one of these two bets has to be profitable, right? If I bet the over at plus 116 on FanDuel and I bet the under at minus 103 on on Caesars. So I bet the over at plus 116 on FanDuel and the under on Caesars at minus 103. I can make a risk-free profit. So one of these bets has to be profitable. One sports book has to be messing up, because I could literally bet his over on FanDuel, his under on Caesars, and make a risk-free profit. So someone is screwing up here. One of these bets has to have a positive ROI. In looking at the rest of the market, it's really clear that, hey, Caesars is the book offering value, right? They have this at minus 103. It's very clear, kind of seeing the hundreds of other books that are setting lines, that the value's on the Caesar side. So again, you can think of it like buying a stock. Buy the stock at 103 when it's trading in the market at minus 139 at $139. So we're getting a 36-cent discount to the average line in the market. You also know, because this is a crossed market, this is arbitrage, you could bet the over on FanDuel, the under on Caesars if you hedge in the right proportions using a hedge calculator, also known as an arbitrage calculator. You'll make a risk-free profit. So one of these two bets has to be profitable, and then it becomes really clear it's the Caesar side. But you also have to remember, sportsbooks are market makers. Their odds reflect information. The same way a stock price signifies the valuation of the company, it's the same thing in sports betting. Odds mean something, right? Like minus 150, what does that mean? Minus 150 means a 1.5 to 1 betting favorite, 60% to win. Minus 200 means a 2 to 1 betting favorite, 2/3 to win, according to the market. So long story short, how you can kind of think about this is DraftKings has a 30-cent spread in their market. Sportsbooks are market makers. That's how they make money, right? Like DraftKings is essentially like a stockbroker saying, hey, I'll buy at 100 and I'll sell at 130. Books are market makers. So DraftKings has a 30-cent spread. So essentially, when you're trying to figure out what is the fair value, and OddsJam has a no vig odds calculator. I use this all the time. It's the most important calculator in sports betting. Is you'll see DraftKings market is plus 100 minus 130. So essentially what this calculator does, a no vig calculator, is it takes a sportsbook's market. I just put in DraftKings plus 100 minus 130. They have a 30-cent spread, 30 cents of juice, vig, whatever. And this calculator just removes the vig. So the way that a sports book works is they have models, right? These books are taking bets, adjusting their odds. You can see a line movement chart, this one for Fliff. So these sports books are taking wagers, adjusting their odds based on where action's coming in. If all the sharp bettors start betting Saquon's under, they'll move odds towards the under. So the way a sportsbook works is they have models that spit out, hey, this is fair value, right? This is a market with no juice, right? Plus 113, minus 113. This is the no vig odds, also known as the fair odds. So essentially, DraftKings model is saying, hey, you know, Saquon's over should be priced at plus 113. His under should be priced at minus 113. That's a market with no hold. You can bet on the over at plus 113, 100 to win 113 profit, or you can play the under 113 to win 100 profit. The under is minus 113. So basically, according to DraftKings, according to the model, the market they're putting out, the fair line on the under, the true odds, the true price of Saquon under 2.5 receptions is minus 103, minus 113. We're getting minus 103 better odds on Caesars, so we're getting better than fair value, which is why this bet is plus EV, positive ROI, you know, positive expected value, however you want to think about it. So DraftKings is saying, hey, through their odds, they have a 30-cent spread. The fair odds on the under is minus 113. We're getting minus 103. That's better than fair value. This bet's profitable. FanDuel's market, they're more aggressive on the under than DraftKings. All these books have different customers. They're taking different wagers. They have slightly different models. But regardless, you can see there's not that much discrepancy in the market. FanDuel's a little more aggressive on the under than, let's say, Pinnacle, this book right here, which is known to be a really sharp sports book, minus 140 versus minus 152. So essentially, FanDuel has a 36-cent spread in their market, plus 116, minus 152. They're like stockbrokers. They buy the stock at 116, they sell it at minus 152. You remove the VIG. According to FanDuel, you remove the juice. The fair odds or the no VIG odds would be plus 130, minus 130. So FanDuel saying the over should be priced at plus 130, the under should be priced at minus 130. That's what they believe the true line is before they add the juice, add the VIG to their market. And again, if the under is fair at minus 130 and we're getting minus 103, this is a plus EV bet. This is a profitable bet. So OddsJam, the positive expected value tool, it reads in odds from 200 plus sports books. Every bet is a data point. It removes the VIG from every sportsbook's market, right? So for every single sportsbook, OddsJam is doing this in real time. It's taking FanDuel's market, removing the VIG, to calculate the true odds, the fair odds, the no VIG odds. In this case from FanDuel, minus 130. DraftKings, it was minus 113. Books have slightly different weightings. So BetOnline and Pinnacle, for example, are known to be two really sharp sports books. So FanDuel's market, you know, was plus 116, minus 152. Pinnacle's market is plus 115, minus 140. You remove the VIG. The fair odds would be minus 125. So Pinnacle maybe is weighted, you know, a little higher in the OddsJam positive EV algorithm than Hot Streak, which is a kind of new sports book. It's not known to be super sharp. So OddsJam is taking in every book's odds, removing the VIG, taking a weighted average where sharper books get a higher weighting. And long story short, you know, showing you the best plays where you're getting odds that are above fair value. And again, there's hundreds of sports books. So this tool is going to read in bets from every sports book. There can be good bets on DraftKings, Fliff, whatever. Again, ideally use as many books as possible because you never know which of these sports books is going to have, you know, the best value on a given day. But that's kind of how the OddsJam positive EV tool works. All of these bets have a positive ROI. You know, you're not guaranteed to win every bet, but over the course of the long run, you'll make money. And again, I recommend setting your odds from minus 175 to plus 175. That's roughly what I have. So next, I wanted to explain how to use OddsJam, how I beat fantasy books. And there's 4 main fantasy books I use: DFS, fixed payout, pick'em websites, prizepicks, underdog fantasy, Dabble, and Betr. Those are the main 4 that I use. And you can see they're super profitable, right? So like You can see on Betr, I'm up almost $70,000 this year. On Underdog Fantasy, I'm up like 15K. Long story short, these books are super exploitable, but they work a little differently from traditional sports books like FanDuel and DraftKings. So there's a few main differences. First of all, on fantasy books like PrizePicks and Underdog, you can only play player props. They don't have straight bets. So, for example, if you want to bet on the Knicks to win, you can't do that. You can't do that on PrizePicks. You can't take money lines, point spreads, totals, nothing like that. All they have are player props. The second thing that makes fantasy books interesting is they're parlay only. So what I mean by that is, let's say I really like Josh Hart, under 15.5 rebounds plus assists. This is a play that's available on Underdog Fantasy, which again is a fantasy book that I've used for, about the past 3 years now, and I've had a lot of success on it. But what you'll notice is if I just try to take Josh Hart under 15.5 rebounds plus assists, they tell me, hey, you need at least 2 picks. You need at least 2 picks to complete your entry. So on these fantasy books, they're parlay only, so you need to have at least 2 picks. But what I wanted to do is just kind of run through how I use OddsJam to maximize my profits on websites like PrizePicks, Underdog Fantasy, Betr, and Dabble. Because again, these sites are super exploitable, but they work a little differently than traditional sports books like FanDuel and DraftKings. So the first tool that I use to beat these fantasy books is the OddsJam Positive EV tool. We've already gone through the Positive EV tool for traditional sports books like FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever. But you can also use this tool to make money on Underdog Fantasy and PrizePicks. So kind of important to know, but I have an example play popped up, which you can see right here, is the way that Underdog Fantasy works is they have fixed payouts. So what do I mean by that? Is right here you can see, right, Underdog Fantasy is giving me a 6x payout, so I'm putting down 100 to win 600 on a 3-pick entry. And it doesn't matter if I take, if I switch this from an over to an under, I'm still getting a 6x payout. Same thing here. If I switch this from an over to an under, I'm still getting a 6x payout. So basically these fantasy sites, if I, remove the hockey pick that I just had and I add in another pick, you can see it doesn't matter, right? I'm still getting a 6x payout. So Underdog Fantasy, they give you a 6x payout for any 3-pick entry. So basically, Underdog Fantasy, they're giving us the same price on Josh Hart. If I take Josh Hart's over or his under, I'm getting the same payout, a 6x payout for a 3-pick entry. So what OddsJam does, right, this Positive EV tool, is it just compares the lines on Underdog, PrizePicks, all these different sites to sports books. So if you look at every sports book, all these sports books, it doesn't matter if you use FanDuel, Hot Streak, Flip. It doesn't matter if you use these books or not. They're data points. FanDuel is a $40 billion company, right? They're experts in setting lines. You want to put some weight into their odds, and you'll see all these sports books have Josh Hart's under favored. FanDuel has his under 15.5 RAs as a minus 132 favorite. So all these books are telling you through their betting market, through their odds, that, hey, Josh Hart's a lot more likely to go under as opposed to over. So that would be the sharp pick that you want to be on Underdog Fantasy. Now, one thing I wanted to note is it's really important on these fantasy sites like Underdog, Dabble, Betr, and PrizePicks, the main 3 I use. It's really important what type of slip you go with. So Underdog Fantasy, they give you better payouts than PrizePicks in general. They give you a 6x payout on 3-pick entries. Whereas if I head over to PrizePicks, you'll see PrizePicks is cheaper. They only give me a 5x payout on 3-mans. So it is kind of important on these fantasy books what type of slip you go with. And I've done other YouTube tutorials kind of breaking down the optimal slip type on each platform. Because again, PrizePicks only gives you 5x and Underdog gives you 6x for a 3-man. Another thing to note is this line, you can see it's not available on PrizePicks. It's only available on Underdog Fantasy, which again just goes to the point of using multiple platforms. This is a really profitable bet on Underdog Fantasy, but it's not available on PrizePicks. So sometimes there's better value on Underdog, sometimes there's better value on PrizePicks, and that's kind of the benefit of using multiple sports books. So another tool that I like to use, this tool, it's called the OddsJam Fantasy Optimizer, is really meant for people who can't use traditional sports books like FanDuel and DraftKings. Fantasy books like PrizePicks are legal in a bunch more states like California and Texas. In California and Texas, you don't have FanDuel, but you do have fantasy books like Underdog Fantasy, like PrizePicks, and like Dabble. So, for example, for PrizePicks, this is the OddsJam Fantasy Optimizer. I have PrizePicks selected. It's recommending taking Cameron Dicker over 1.5 field goals. If you look here, all the sports books, DraftKings, all these different sports books, they all have Cameron Dicker's over heavily favored, right? Like Fliff has his line at -150, whatever. You can see another play is OddsJam will also point out line discrepancies. So esports, in my opinion, is super profitable on these fantasy books. There's like 50 esports games a day. The market's super fragmented, super inefficient. So there's a lot of opportunity. More games means more profitable betting opportunities. So you can see PrizePicks has Merit 2K, this random esports player. They have his line at 30. If you look at every other sports book, right, like Underdog Fantasy, Parlay Play, all these other books, granted, FanDuel, DraftKings, a lot of these multi-billion-dollar companies, they don't do esports player props, but all these other books have Merit 2K's line lower at 28.5. Finding value, that's the first step to being a profitable bettor. You got to be doing it. So Merit 2K under 30, you know, that's why OddsJam's recommending it. It seems like a great play, a bet with an edge. And every other fantasy book has Merit 2K's line lower at 28.5. So again, every tool on OddsJam, from, you know, the Arbitrage Betting tool, the Positive EV tool, it's all just data. Why is OddsJam recommending Cameron Dicker over 1.5 field goals? Well, every sportsbook has his over as a heavy favorite, around like -140 odds. His over is more likely than his under. What about this Merit 2K line? Why should we be taking the under 30? Well, every other book has his line at 28.5. So these fantasy books, again, I've kind of gone through the math and other videos behind like what type of slip is optimal on each platform. Because again, PrizePicks and Underdog Fantasy, they don't have the same lines. They also don't have the same payouts. However, they do have the same payout sometimes. So like, for example, on Underdog Fantasy, any 2-pick entry, so you can see if I remove one of the picks, now I have a 2-pick entry, just 2 picks in this. Underdog giving me a 3x payout. Sometimes they have the same payout. On PrizePicks, they give you a 3x payout too. So sometimes these fantasy books like PrizePicks, Underdog, they have the same payout. Other times, like 3-pick entries, they start to differ. So it's really important to kind of know what type of slip is optimal, which again, I've done a bunch of videos kind of breaking down the math behind these platforms and what type of slip is optimal. So the final tool I wanted to mention is the OddsJam promo converter. So this tool is super, super valuable. I mean, if you look at Caesars Sportsbook, for example, all these books are in ruthless competition with one another for new customers. So a lot of these books, like Caesars, they have an $1,000 insured bet, right? When you first sign up for Caesars, their promo, their offer is, hey, if you lose your first play, we'll give you back $1,000, right? Up to $1,000. If you only play 500, they'll give you back 500 if your play loses, if your bet loses. But what they're telling you right here, I mean, I'm literally just on, you know, Caesar Sportsbook homepage. I've already done all these sign-up bonuses, but if you're just signing up for sportsbooks, all these books have lucrative deposit matches. Is on Caesars, they tell you, hey, if your first bet loses, we'll give you your money back in bonus bets. So the question is, you know, how do we maximize our profit, right? How do we take this promo and turn it into money? And essentially that's where OddsJam comes in with this promo converter. So basically, this is a risk-free insured play. So what does that mean? What that means is if you lose, you get your money back in bonus bets. So long story short, because this is an insured play, right? We don't want to place our first bet on Caesars if we're first signing up for Caesars. You don't want to play this $1,000 bet on a big favorite, right? Like the whole value of the promo is your play is insured. If you lose, you get your money back. So essentially what that means, if I go back to this promo converter, is you want to bet on an underdog. You want to bet on a long shot. So you can see the top play currently on Caesars. I have Caesars selected on the promo converter. Is it tells me if you want to hedge and turn your bet into risk-free profit, what you can do, and granted, this is a bit of a long shot, but you can see the breakdown here, is you want to bet on, this hockey player, Kotkaniemi, to score a goal at plus 650, and then you want to hedge on FanDuel. It says $6,000, but obviously a $6,000 hedge bet on a guy to not score a goal may not be possible, so you may need to find another play. For example, Memphis and Connecticut, maybe you can't bet, the full amount, $59.50 on FanDuel. But what this is going to tell you is, hey, you can take this Caesars promo, and by hedging, you want to bet on a long shot with your risk-free bet. The whole value of the promo is if you lose, you get your money back. So you want to play a long shot on Caesars and then go to a different sports book and play the big favorite, in this case, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, to not score a goal at minus 700 on FanDuel. But again, it's probably going to be hard to get that much action down. So even though this would be the most lucrative, would give you the highest amount of risk-free profit, maybe instead we take Memphis, right, a college basketball underdog, on Caesars. This tells me, hey, hedge on FanDuel, bet on UConn at minus 375 for $29.60. And regardless of what happens, I'm going to convert my bonus bet, my sign-up promo on Caesars, into $700 in risk-free profit. So this is a little bit complicated, but, maybe it takes some time to go through some examples and really understand how it works. But these sign-up bonuses are super lucrative, and OddsJam, has a promo converter that really helps you with all the different types of promos, from profit boost, bonus bets, insured bets, just like this one on Caesars, where if you lose your first bet, you get your money back in bonus funds. It shows you how to take these super lucrative sign-up bonuses and convert them into risk-free profit. What is the best line to take on Caesars? And then what's the best book to hedge on? In this case, it's FanDuel, to guarantee a risk-free profit. So I could take this Caesars sign-up promo and turn it into a risk-free profit of $700. Again, just following the calculators. But long story short, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial on OddsJam, the different betting tools, how to maximize profit, and thank you so much for your time.